As Jackson Lamb once said, you know, it's not the hope that kills you, Cartwright. It's knowing it's the hope that kills you that kills you. My new favorite quote from a movie. Hi, Chris Chandler. We have a guest.
Hi. Hi, Jim. How are y'all?
Hey.
Hi, Lionel.
You're here with me and Lionel. And you're in your stage. You're in your element.
I was just working on a up until 15 minutes ago, which is why I'm running a little late. I was working on a Thanksgiving broadcast. I wrote a Thanksgiving story,
Nice.
and just finished it up. It was complete with props and all kinds of Thanksgiving stuff. A lot of fun. I'm going to show it on Thanksgiving Day.
Wait. Put that center so we can see it.
Your box of stovetop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right in the middle though. We can't still stuffing mix. It just says stuffing mix. Turkey.
It should be stovetop, but I went to the dollar store to get it. I'm not actually going to eat this.
Dollar store stuffing mix. Perfect.
Yeah, it was a story about a cheap Thanksgiving. I hope you'll watch it. It'll be up on my YouTube channel.
Okay, absolutely.
Be running it on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, definitely we'll check it out.
What's the YouTube channel? Is it just search for Chris Chandler?
It is the Chris Chandler Show. There are a lot of Chris Chandlers in this world, and I added the show to it to differentiate myself. I was never the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes, you were. You're just being modest.
It did get me out of a speeding ticket one time.
For our listeners, can you talk about your the show that you've been doing? Just so they know kind of what to expect. You've been doing these for a while now, since pandemic, right?
I have been. I'm not doing them as regularly as I used to, but during the pandemic, I started doing a poem a day. And one day there was a red tea towel, and I picked it up and held it in front of the camera, and it became a curtain. And I thought, oh, I know what I want to do. I want to build a little stage and have a show. And I started doing it. Then I brought it to a poem a week. And I did that for up until fairly recently. I was doing a poem a week. Now I'm just doing my occasional story show. And I did one on Columbus Day. I'm now doing one for Thanksgiving. And I'm just going to do one for Christmas.
I need to catch up with them. I really like them. They have a really nice feel. Like, it's the puppet show kind of feel, the small stage. And sometimes you have little items that kind of act as an introduction, which is really fun.
Yeah, and I like this sort of puppetry. I recently saw it. I'm just going to plug them once, but I saw a show that it was so life changing that I have to mention it. It's called Manual Cinema. They're out of Chicago. They came through Austin. I was lucky enough to be a stagehand for the show, and they took. If you think you've ever seen shadow puppets, you are wrong. They took it to such a new level that it was just mind-blowing. And on top of that, the material was fantastic. It was kind of a combination of Macbeth and Through the Looking Glass and Fantasia. It was just phenomenal. So working in this sort of scale and seeing a show like that is just. It was life-changing for sure.
Well, since you made the mistake of saying that, let us drive down a country road for a second here, which is there's a website that I like a lot that I've turned Jim on to and a bunch of other people, which is called Feuilleton. I'm not going to spell it because it takes too long. But he sometimes, it's just this guy who has a web page and he sends out something every day. And one of the big things one of the things that he comes back to is Eastern European animation, stop action animation. And now the brothers Quay and Jan Svankmajer have entered the general, I think Jan Svankmajer has gotten the kind of recognition he deserves. Well, he's gotten some recognition. I don't think he's gotten the recognition he deserves, but he's great. But this guy Feuilleton turned me on to this other earlier animator who did this thing probably you know about because it turned up in this other thing that I'm watching right now, which is a 15-episode history of film. It's the only animation this guy has talked about, which is this thing where there's this little puppet guy living in his apartment, and then this big hand comes in and arrives in his room. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't, but it sounds like the early days of what would later become, I think, Hanna-Barbera, the ink drawings, the giant hand
this
drawing.
is stop action. This is stop motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is actual objects.
No, I'm not familiar with it now.
Oh, it's really cool, and it's all about living under the Soviet, It's all about authority because the hand comes in and the hand points at him and says, "No, you're not going to do." He's like throwing pots. He's got like a little pottery wheel. He makes these pots and he puts flowers in them. The hand comes in and says, "No, you're not going to do that. You're going to do this," and it's really intense. Let me just take a look. Let me just look it up for just 2 seconds here.
Can you? And also, you might need to throw the link to Julia, otherwise she will lose her mind trying to find that for our reference page, which probably nobody checks.
Okay, so let me just take a look here. Eastern, of course, Eastern hand puppet. Yeah, I'm not going to find it. Right. Oh, there it is. Yeah. The Hand by Yuri Trinka. Let me see here. Is this it? The Hand by Jiri. First name. Last name is Trnka. And it's called The Hand. And a lot of people refer to this as like really epic making. So anyway, sorry about that.
There's lots of things you can do with a hand, for sure. No, I love rabbit holes like that. It's what we live for.
What do you got there, Chris?
I was just
lighting it all on fire for us.
Just using the hand, that's all.
Cool. There we go.
I had my own tangent with that. Sorry about that.
We had an assignment for this episode, and it was to watch 2 movies. And I was able to watch one of them, but I wasn't able to watch the other. Lionel, you and Chris both watched both of them.
Both.
And they were A Complete Unknown with Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan, and Deliver Me From Nowhere, which is a line from a song on Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska album.
It's a line from 2 songs.
It is.
That line,
and when I listened...
Yeah. It appears in 2 songs. Yeah, it appears in "Open All Night" and in State Trooper.
Yeah,
which are both fairly similar songs, except they're completely different.
Yeah, I listened to the extended cuts. It was interesting. A Gun in Every Home is a great tune, and it's too bad that it wasn't on that. It wasn't on Nebraska. It was released.
Yeah, I was really. I had no idea those songs existed. I was so thrilled.
Yeah.
The Gun in Every Home was definitely one of the standouts of the expanded version.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Help me here. A Gun in Every Home, the song, was never actually released.
Not until this expanded version, to my knowledge. I'm no musicologist. I had never heard of it. They released, along with the movie, they released an expanded version of Nebraska as an album. And it has alternative recordings where they, originally Nebraska was going to be a demo record and use the whole band. So they did try a few things with it. But
Electric Nebraska. Right, I read about that.
Yeah. Did he do all of that in the hotel, or did he come back and redo some things? Do you know?
It wasn't actually. It was a rented house actually that he lived in for months after the tour, and he did. He did. It was my understanding that he played all the instruments on it as well. But again, I'm no musicologist. I am 100% dating myself a bit, which I don't mind doing. But I am 100% the target audience for "Deliver Me From Nowhere" because I was a high school dropout, but I would have been a senior in high school when that record came out. It was in the days that you literally camped out at the record store waiting for records to come in, And I had that experience with Nebraska, and I, totally wore the grooves off of it, played it. And I've often said that, you go through the rest of your life listening to the music that you listened to when you were a senior in high school. And you go through the rest of your life dancing the way you danced when you were a senior in high school.
Yeah, unfortunately. That is a very sad fact.
But and it's unfortunate that people like me are the target audience, because we're not, sort of older than the average moviegoer. So I don't think it went very far at the box office because of that. But I went out to see it like opening night. I was excited about it, because the record really.
Talk to me about this film.
Yeah, it came about at a time when I was also wanting to become an acoustic guitar player. So it had that sort of resonance to it. And basically, I think you probably could have dressed someone up like Bruce Springsteen and just played those songs, and I would have thought it was worth the price of admission. Right. Whether the movie is actually going to reach people and make new fans or new fans of that kind of music, I'm not so sure. Jeremy Strong was fantastic as John Landover. Jeremy Strong is great in anything that he does. But there was a belief in his artistry that really came through. The theme of the movie seemed to be artistically to stick to your guns, but it's a more difficult message to come across when you're already a successful artist. Granted, he was not a superstar at that time, but his star was certainly on the rise. And I think that's the central message of the movie is to stick to your creative guns.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't see the film, but before Nebraska, Bruce was everything to New Yorkers and New Jersey people, and the metro New York area. He was everything. There were radio stations that literally had the morning juice, which was just Bruce Springsteen. They would only play Bruce Springsteen first thing in the morning.
It's so true.
So locally, which is like pretty big locally because it included Philadelphia as well. He was a huge hit.
Yeah, he was. It had a lot of shots of Asbury Park, which I enjoy, because I used to live in Asbury Park, and so that really brought me home for better and worse to being there. And lots of shots of the Stone Pony, and I was actually going to get married at the Stone Pony, so I have close by in my heart for that. But seeing the scenes of him on stage, he was in that area of the world. He was indeed a superstar. But it was a big diversion in the direction of musically that he was going in, and I think that's why I kind of stick with your guns message of the movie. Because if he had gone out on, even at the Stone Pony, if he had walked out there with an acoustic guitar and played those songs, I don't think that audience would have loved what was coming out.
No, it wasn't that kind of thing. It was definitely the E Street Band. It was not just Bruce. It was Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band.
I have a friend that went and saw him at the Stone Pony in those early days, and he'd been hearing about this guy. You got to go see the boss. You got to go see the boss. So he goes to see them, and he walks out of the show thinking that Clarence Clements was the boss.
Right, exactly. Blow, big man. Well, it's interesting because there are pictures when I was playing at the main line in Ardmore. No, it wasn't in Ardmore. It was in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. They had, Bruce had come through and Tom Waits had come through. They were both and Jackson Browne. It was like the three of them were like the songwriters. The big songwriters at the time were coming through. I think Bonnie Raitt also came through. But they were solo. They just, Bruce came with his guitar, and Tom Waits probably played piano, and Jackson Browne with guitar.
And all those people were next Bob Dylan's.
Yeah, and it was small. Of course, it was a small club, is what I mean. It was like a cafe that he was playing in. So in this movie, do you feel like? How is the writing? How is it set up? Aside from liking who it's about.
It starts off with showing him as a star, an accomplished artist who is not satisfied with the with the fame and attention that he's receiving, and knows that there's something else artistically that he can do, and something, and we're seeing a darker side of an artist, and he just basically locks himself up in seclusion and starts writing these songs, which is a big departure from the stuff that he was writing before, and it sort of takes him to yet another level. And I thought it was cleverly done, and I think people who were not Bruce Springsteen fans or even fans of that kind of music could indeed get an artistic message out of it.
I'm going to leave you and Lionel to talk for a second. I need to get the potatoes out of my oven because
Happy Thanksgiving.
My schedule is off here.
I need 60 seconds too. I'll be right back.
Okay, we're taking a little break. People on the live.
Yeah.
Shall I put on that horrible music? No, I won't ever do that again. I won't ever do that again. I wish I had some intermission music here. Chris, you can talk to people. We're streaming live to my Patreon. We'll edit this out for the podcast. Be right back.
Well, it's a real honor for me to be here. I've been a big fan of Jen for a long time, and thank you for those of you who are watching. I can't see any comments you might be making just because of the way my show is set up, so it's just sort of me, and I don't want to bore you with my chit chat, especially since I'm talking to a picture of myself, and I feel like I'm looking in the mirror, and it's very kind of weird and creepy.
Okay, while they're away. Oh, here they come. Shh. Everybody dummy up. This court of common pleas is now in session.
Hear ye, hear ye.
Hear ye, hear ye. All rise.
So we were talking about the movie.
Yes.
Jeremy Strong.
We're talking about the writing. And so it's interesting because I saw this movie, and Chris, you saw the movie, but you're much more connected to the music than I was. So I want to hear what you think of the movie.
Well, I mean, in both movies, the musical accomplishment that it takes to pull off a lot of that is not all that great. He did a great job doing some of the harder Bruce Springsteen songs. He plays "Born to Run" and "Born in the USA" and those things. I think the three of us could probably name 15 people who could mimic Bob Dylan early days perfectly. So I don't think that's that much of an artistic accomplishment. And to play the songs that are on Nebraska, to write the songs that are on Nebraska is a huge accomplishment. But to mimic Bruce Springsteen doing them, I don't think is that great of an artistic achievement. But nonetheless, I enjoyed seeing it, and he did credible versions of it. And even if the music did not particularly resonate for you, I think you can see beyond just what they are. So I thought it did a credible job of doing that and seeing the writing process and just simple things like changing the I to we or the we to I, and it becomes more
cool.
perspective. Those are things that I thought that it pulled off really well, and I think this movie would mainly appeal to people who are aspiring artists or artists on some level themselves. I don't think that's someone who's doing something completely different in their life would see this movie and suddenly go, "Hey, I want to become an artist." But I can't speak for everybody, but that's who I think it would appeal to.
Well,
and go ahead.
I mean, I'm
interested
in I'm interested to hear from you that you don't necessarily resonate with the music. So therefore, how did the movie affect you as someone who's not necessarily resonating with music?
Well, the problem is that I saw this movie and then I saw A Complete Unknown, and I watched them next to each other. And to me, A Complete Unknown was a much more interesting film to me. It has a much broader canvas. It has much more humor. It's by broader canvas, I mean it's plugging into like contemporary affairs. So they're showing Martin Luther King and they're showing the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it's inextricably linked with everything that's going on in the film. And you have all these other artists like Joan Baez, and I love who's the guy on the community television station, the blues player. He was fabulous. So you have just a much wider. Yeah. You had Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie. Whereas Deliver Me from Nowhere, it's Bruce and Landau.
Yes, I'm sure I agree with you. That was one of the biggest flaws in the movie. I mean, he has the E Street Band there. I mean, one of the central questions that when the record came out that I wanted to know was, how did he tell the band? You guys are just worried. That's the conversation I wanted to hear, and none of the band even had a line in the movie.
Clarence could have said, like, "Don't you want a little saxophone on this? Are you sure you don't want a little saxophone?"
Exactly.
I could be way in the background. I could play real quiet.
There's none of that.
And
go ahead.
And Steven Van Zandt too. Yeah. Sorry, Steven Van Zandt would be like, Bruce, I just feel like I could lay down a lead on this. Sorry, that's my Steven Van Zandt.
Well,
I did want to hear that conversation. There were a lot of other things going on at the time that in the early '80s, it didn't really set it in Reagan's America. We didn't have that. Whereas to me, the best character in A Complete Unknown was Greenwich Village itself. Asbury Park was not as much of a character. There were interesting things going on in Asbury Park in the '80s, and it turned very dark. It was very seedy, and it was beginning to make a comeback. It became a gay destination. They cleaned up the town, and there was a lot of things going on in Asbury Park. It was not a character at all. Whereas Greenwich Village was, God, just to be able to sit in a movie theater in that environment for a couple of hours was just fantastic.
Yeah. It really took you there. And you also, the whole thing around the Cuban Missile Crisis was really poignant. You felt like things were happening in the world and that people were writing about those things. It sounds like it was contrasted by...
And frankly, Pete Seeger is a more interesting character than anybody surrounding Bruce Springsteen. Pete Seeger's presence in it was just such a dominant force in that movie, and Deliver Me from Nowhere did not seem to have that sort of cast of characters around him that, aside from Jeremy Strong, that really made it pop or speak to you on.
What was powerful in Complete Unknown was that you could see his influences. Of course, I'm always dismayed when they don't include Dave Van Ronk, which they didn't. But they did.
Well, he had a very small role.
Yeah, he was just there for a second. Yeah. But yeah, they included Woody and Pete, and that was really important. And Joan, really important, like pivotally important, and she was a strong character, and you really got a sense of her power in that scene.
And Johnny Cash is just a force,
Great.
And I really liked the way Johnny Cash was portrayed in the film.
Yeah. It's just, it has a lot of humor. That's the great thing about A Complete Unknown, is that's fundamentally an incredibly funny film.
That scene with Johnny Cash at 10 in the morning being a complete trunk trying to park his car. It's just hysterical.
There's one
Just a
person
rolling disaster. Yeah.
Yeah. But the one I really loved, the person who does not come out well at all is Alan Lomax. If there's anybody who's even close to a villain in the film.
Oh, yeah.
And Alan Lomax, who's worshipped. I mean, people worship the ground on which Alan Lomax walks. And most likely justifiably so, because if it wasn't for him, a lot of stuff wouldn't have happened. But still, he's just, I think there's multiple themes in A Complete Unknown, which is great because it's also a story of the Newport Folk Festival. And I love how the first one is really small. Like they do a shot of the audience. It's like 100 people. And then the second one is like 200.
Sitting in folding chairs.
Yeah, and then the third one is huge. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and becomes this big thing. And I thought the treatment of Pete Seeger by Norton was fabulous. Fabulous.
Yes.
Fabulously defined character. This man who's like a cross between Mr. Rogers. He's trying to keep everybody together. He's so painfully.
He's somewhere between Lennon and Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, but at the end, even
between who and Mr. Rogers?
Lennon?
I'm sorry?
Between Lennon, who is it? Oh, Lennon.
Vladimir Lennon.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, because he is definitely like, we can use this guy. Here's somebody we can definitely use for the cause. Right. And you can kind of feel Dylan being like, nah. Okay.
Yeah, but there's the scene where Pete Seeger is like bringing them coffee because he wants to try and talk them out of not going electric. And that just
great.
It was so Pete Seeger
in the hotel. Beautiful scene.
Yeah. I brought you this coffee.
Yeah. Did I ever tell my story about the teaspoons and the seesaw? And it's just like, and he's just, but fundamentally, it would have been so easy to turn that into like a satire of Pete Seeger or condescending towards him. And he's not. It's a very, very delicate, very loving dissection of this guy. It's like he is genuinely kind and he is genuinely good. And he is genuinely doing things like showing up on these shitty public interest channels on TV at night, singing about the colors of the rainbow. I mean, he's down there in the trenches trying to do the good thing. And even he has a moment where he snaps. Mm-hmm. He's getting ready to stop to take an axe to the distribution panel at the Newport Folk Festival. Spoiler alert, ex post facto spoiler alert, which I thought was great. I thought it was because it's a very nuanced. He's not a cardboard cutout. I really thought A Complete Unknown was a really, 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 really good film. I think you could really enjoy it.
But they are very similar movies in the sense that one is Dylan goes electric and the other is Springsteen goes acoustic. And and they're both about an artistic transition, and they're both very important transitions. So many of the records that Springsteen made later, the acoustic series, the Bruce Springsteen's The Pete Seeger Sessions is a great record connecting the two. And they were artistic gambles to do. Dylan's was more successful than Springsteen's. Something that I thought a little anecdote, which I think would have taken 4 minutes in A Complete Unknown, which would have said more about the kind of person that Dylan was, the kind of artist that Dylan was aspiring to be. There was a real life incident when Bob Dylan his only claim to fame really was that he had written "Blowing in the Wind" and Peter, Paul, and Mary had a hit with it, and that was really his only touchstone of fame. But he had the opportunity to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was a total career changer and game changer, as the Beatles, who were on shortly after this incident. And he shows up at the Ed Sullivan Show and says, I want to play Talking John Birch Society Blues. And why don't you just sing "Blowing in the Wind"? Just go. Dylan says no, and he walks off the set and doesn't appear on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Whoa, that would have been great.
And then later the Rolling Stones come on singing "Let's Spend Some Time Together" instead of "Let's Spend the Night Together."
So
to show that kind of contrast. it would have shown more color to the character that is Bob Dylan, who was a very difficult person to capture.
Yeah, Deliver Me from
because there's a
Nowhere
combination of.
We got some serious echo.
But there's a combination. I just want to say this quick thing. Combination in Bob Dylan's character of not giving a crap and also really giving a crap. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It wasn't that he was just like, okay, whatever. I'm just doing my thing. I don't care.
I really want people to know that I don't care.
Yeah, right, exactly. He had an agenda. And that came across really nicely in the film, which is so hard to do. So, sorry, Lionel, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to summarize. To me, Deliver Me from Nowhere, one, I think, fatal flaw about the film is when you get to about 20 minutes before the end of the film, you're like, oh, so Bruce Springsteen is suffering from depression? Is that what this movie's about? Because, like, that took me completely by surprise, where he has to go to the therapist. They try to make something out of, that he has some kind of big psychological crisis, which he probably does, but that wasn't really where the movie was leading. I'm just talking about movie qua movie, not movie qua Bruce Springsteen or movie qua music or anything like that. I just felt the movie was much more claustrophobic, much more narrow in focus, not as deft, almost completely humorless. I think it's still worth watching. I think it's still really cool because what it did is it turned me on to Nebraska. And I called my universal muse, my friend Bob Loy, and I said, what can you tell me about Nebraska? And he says, you don't know about Nebraska? Where the hell have you been living? He said, Atlantic City is one of the greatest songs ever written. He said, Highway Patrolman is one of the greatest songs ever written. He said, hang up right now and go listen to those songs and tell me that they're not fabulous. And the last thing, and I'm done with this, is that it was amazing to me because I didn't know Bruce Springsteen at all. And what was amazing to me was how the songs in Nebraska are so close to Tom Waits. Except Tom Waits has like the Bertolt Brecht vibe. Tom Waits has sort of the carnival Bertolt Brecht, the overdone, the crazy shit and the crazy people. But really, the fundamental vibe of a lot of the tunes on Nebraska and some of Tom Waits stuff is really, it's very new, there are some clear New Jersey things, but it's also just about, Skid Row, losers, trying to make it through the world. Really interesting. I never thought, because all I grew up listening to was Baby, We Were Born to Run, and which I really didn't like in any way whatsoever. But that's the end of my tirade. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, but even those songs are about every man. They are about losers. They're about getting yourself out of poverty, and I admire those songs. I had the experience of being loving Nebraska so much as a teenager. And the next record coming out was Born in the USA. And again, camping out at the record store, waiting for this thing to come home. And I can't ever remember being more disappointed in something when I got it home. And it was just like this pop record. And I'm like, oh my God, what has happened?
Yeah. Dancing in the Dark was on that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I listened to, on the extended cuts, I listened to Born in the USA. It's a completely different song. Yeah. It makes so much more sense the way he plays it in the minor key. Mm-hmm. He'd made it major, right? On the record. This version, actually, you feel it. You feel the plight of the vet coming back home and not being able to get a job. And
the other version sounds like a national anthem, so much so that the Reagan administration wanted to use it as a campaign song. And so they go, you might want to listen to the words here.
I know, but it's still his fault, right? Because he did produce it that way.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the original, it's like, well, they didn't produce it that way, which would have brought the lyrics forward more. The song that I think is amazing is The Losing Kind. That track really got me.
Yeah, the luck. Luck doesn't do you any good when it's the losing kind.
Yeah. I thought that was great. Now, another interesting thing about Tom Waits, because they were coming up together in their scene. Chris, you and I came up in the same scene. So Bruce writes Atlantic City, and Tom writes The Heart of a Saturday Night.
Heart of Saturday Night.
And they're really similar, But their approach is slightly different. I can't put my finger on what's what's so different about them? But in some ways, they're the same song. I personally like Tom's better, but they're trying to get at something. They're trying to get at that feeling of, trying to find something to do. As two people in love trying to find something to do, with the best time that they're going to have, and I get a lot of that from Bruce. I guess I don't often dig into him because I don't know how many times I can get into the kind of stories that he tells, but that's probably because I'm this Manhattan jerk,
Well, I come from the exact opposite demographic. I come from the rural South. And the thing that I liked about him was it said, you know what? There are Yankee rednecks too. And, I had really never known that before. We were gearheads too. We were fixing up our muscle cars, and it's like, oh yeah, Yankees do this stuff too.
Yeah, talking about the flat four or something. Yeah, putting car lingo into the song. Yeah, that's what made it completely ridiculous to me because none of my friends, only one of my friends was really interested in.
None of your friends probably even knew how to drive.
No, I didn't learn how to. I never got a license until I was 22.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was completely alien. I'm like, write a song about a cab. Well, Jim Croce did that. So.
Harry Chanlder.
And I have one more criticism of Deliver Me From Nowhere, which is there's no way that the keyboard player was using a Yamaha CS80 to play on those tracks, to play the backing piano tracks on stuff. This is, of course, I'm saying this half jokingly because Jim and I have this running joke about compression ratios.
It has to do with how to lose all the listeners. Yeah.
Yeah. How nitpicky can you get? It's like, that's a Yamaha CS80 and it doesn't have a realistic piano patch. And I don't think Lenny Waronker was using a CS80 in 1981 or something like, oh my God. But what was interesting, I'll tell you the interesting thing about Deliver Me From Nowhere was that it actually did go into musical gear quite a bit. Like they they specifically talked about the Tascam 144, and never has so much screen time been devoted to a piece of musical gear that deserves it so little. I mean, yeah, it was a 4-track cassette unit. There was millions. Everybody was making them at the same time. Tascam was an innovator. Great. I just don't think the audience needed to see 6 minutes of like the unboxing of the Tascam 144 and hooking it up. And it's like really weird. And then you go into like the studio and like, yeah, they have a Yamaha CS80, which is like the weirdest key. Maybe he did play it, but it's just, there was actually some really weird obsessive things in that movie about recording technology, like the whole thing about how to remaster. So Springsteen records these tunes on the Tascam 144, a cassette 4-track, and he says, "I just want these tunes cut from the 4-track directly." I think he actually creates a 2-track from the 4-track using an Echoplex, and we see an Echoplex, an actual Echoplex from like 1963, and it's this whole thing about how to master it, and there's too much distortion on it. They have to go to a record cutting place where the guy masters it directly to a record label. I'm like, yeah, just sort of like what we talk about is like we've lost a lot of customers. I'm sure a lot of people are walking out of the movie theater at this point.
Why do I need to know all of this? I just want it to sound good. That's so funny because I definitely noticed when listening to Nebraska, it has a cheap reverb, right? I mean, at the time, of course, the Echoplex was used a lot, but I think probably not in whatever the biggest studio in New York was. They were probably using something a little bit more advanced.
The Echoplex is providing the slapback echo. There's a slapback echo on nearly everything, and they go into. Right, Chris? They go into this in depth in the movie. They explain this whole thing about the slapback.
It is a little over. It really is a movie made for people who simply loved that album, and it did sell a surprising number of records. But most of the people who love that record that passionately are my age, and I don't know anything about mastering records, and I don't need to know those aspects of it. I just love the music. So the movie was made for me, and I realized there's not all that many me's in the world.
Well, it's interesting. I went to see A Complete Unknown with my eldest kid, and they completely loved it. They were drawn in. It was completely at a completely different generation for them, and yet they really liked it. So I think I know it's possible that a younger generation might be drawn in, but probably not till it hits streaming, because unfortunately they're not in theaters.
Well, help me here.
Major problem.
Help me with this, Chris, because you've seen both movies too, which is that it seemed to me that in Complete Unknown, there was a lot of screen time devoted to Dylan or Joan Baez singing like large chunks of his lyrics, like "Blown in the Wind" and "Hard Rain's Gonna Fall," "The Times They Are a Change," and all that stuff. Was there a lot of time actually devoted in Deliver Me From Nowhere from singing through like entire songs from Nebraska?
No, it played parts of songs, and My Father's House, which was the closing number, was I've got to finish writing this song, and that was sort of the closing number. It even left out the payoff line, which I was shocked at. When he finally gets to his father's house, and a woman I didn't recognize speaks to me through a screen door. "I'm sorry, son, no one by that name lives here anymore." It's like, couldn't you have cut the first verse out? I mean,
Yeah, because it is chilling. The way that song, and there he is outside the house, and now he describes it as cold, and you get that desperation and loneliness.
Hey, I got this. This is a great question. Of course, I got this question.
Yeah.
This is a great question. Chris Chandler, could you make a better Bruce Springsteen film? Did you, when you were sitting there in the chair watching me Deliver Me From Nowhere, did you say, "I can do better than this"?
I don't think so. I think that the material is more limited than the Dylan movie. The Dylan movie, I felt like, there are a lot of things I would have done differently, such as the anecdote that I suggested with the Ed Sullivan show. With the Bruce Springsteen movie, the thing that I would have brought out more is making Asbury Park an interesting character, like Greenwich Village was an interesting character,
and bring in the band. Bringing the band and their reactions and things.
Hey guys, I want you to sit down. I got to tell you, this next record, I'm not going to use you. Does he pay the band during that period?
Right.
Questions I would like to know. And in order to answer those questions, you have to establish a relationship with them as characters and see and weave that into the storytelling.
Yeah. I want to say a quick hi to Sarah Elkins, who chimed in on the chat. On our live feed, which is at patreon.com. It's patreon.com/Jim Infantino. If you join there for like $3 a month, you can support the podcast and also all the other things that I do. And Lionel has been gracious enough to just let all of the funds go into my pocket. But it does support the podcast, which we do need a little support. There are some expenses. Chris Chandler, you can support his work at PayPal at Bald Chandler. Is at Bald Chandler. And the Chris Chandler Show on both Venmo and Patreon, the Chris Chandler Show. So recommend that you support the artists you like, support the projects you like. I just need to get up, and I will be right back. I need to, because I'm also cooking dinner while I'm recording. Why don't you two keep going, and I'll be right back.
This is embarrassing. Really. You're fired. Okay. I guess you didn't hear that. So if we were going to make a movie, go ahead.
Well, in Jim's defense, I was very nice of him to go at an off time at a time that I was available. The times that would have been better for him, I was simply not available. So he amended his schedule, so I understand why he's got to get up and do things.
So if we made a movie about Chris Chandler, what would be the character? Like you talk about Greenwich Village as the character and Asbury Park as the character. What would be the character in the Chris Chandler movie? Or is that an uncomfortable question?
I'm just trying to think of a way to answer it correctly. I think the character like Asbury Park or Greenwich Village in my life would probably be truck stops. I've spent a lot of time on the road, and especially early in my career, truck stops were a place that they had a telephone on the table. You could sit there and you could do your business at the truck stop, and it was a place where you rested. And a lot of writing, at least for me, and I know other writers have said similar things, is that a lot of their best ideas come when they're driving, because there's something very zen about your driving. You're thinking about something. You get stuck with the idea, and suddenly a car pulls out in front of you, and it frees up your mind. And, oh, I know the answer to that. And then you've got to get to the truck stop to write that down. So in the truck stop is where a lot of writing gets done. So I think that's the character for me.
Have you been at a truck stop recently?
To define recently, like today? No, I haven't. But I came off the road in. Sure. I came off the road in mid-September. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in truck stops there. I don't write there as much as I used to, because I can pull out my phone and say, make a note. And then here's this thought. But there was a time when you did have to. Yeah, there was a time that you really did have to stop at the truck stop, and I do. I stop there. I still make my phone calls there. I still, I do things like writing there. I just might be doing it on an iPad instead of a yellow legal pad.
And how
do you have? Is there like a? I was starting a question. I'm not sure.
There's a horrible echo. There's a horrible delay on this conversation. I don't know what it is, but everybody else is on a 1 second delay. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I'm going to shut up now.
Well, sorry. You know what? My question wasn't that. I was just going to ask what program you use, but that's the stupidest question in the world. Lionel, go.
How have truck stops changed in recent years? Because I've never been to a truck stop in my entire life. I wouldn't know.
Oh, you're like my brother, who's going to go to his grave having never used a computer. How truck stops? Well, the biggest change in truck stops in my lifetime was pay at the pump. The other big thing that has happened and is happening more so in today is that they are affiliating with other chains more. So it's often Truck Stop of America and Popeye's Chicken. And it used to be that an individual truck stop would have its own little diner that was its own individual thing, and that character has gone away. The character of the waitress at the truck stop has gone away. The person behind the cash register at the Cinnabon is nothing like the waitress at a truck stop.
Huh.
Yeah,
they also used to have bars in them, which I always thought,
like a good idea.
Gasoline and alcohol have always mixed so well.
It's what made this country great.
Gasoline and alcohol.
Gasoline and alcohol, the American way.
They also used to have motels. They still sometimes do. The truck stop shower is always a great thing for people on the road a lot.
I was at one not too long ago, which is weird because I drive an electric car now. I don't remember why I was there. It might have been that there was a charger at the truck stop.
They didn't come out and beat you up.
I wish they had them. What is that? What do you have parked out there?
Nothing.
It's just that prop. One made?
We're making a movie. Oh well.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
why don't you ask Jim the same question? I'm curious about that about his answer to that.
What? Last time I was in a truck stop?
If they made a movie, if we made a movie like Deliver Me from Nowhere or Complete Unknown about Jim Infantino, what would be the? I know it's a horrible layup.
I know how it would go. Yeah.
No, not how it would go, but who would be the character? Because we were talking about how Asbury Park was sort of the locale character, and in one movie, and Greenwich Village was the other one. Do you have I mean, how would you make your movie? It's a hard one.
I don't know who would play me, but
I'll play you.
I mean, I would.
No,
I would say you
character like Greenwich Village or Asbury Park for you.
It would. I think there would have to be. It would have to start with me as a teenager going to the Speakeasy Open Mic where Dave Van Ronk was hosting, and getting up and playing horrible songs, kind of sneaking in to a bar at 16 years old, then maybe cut to Philadelphia, this horrible bar that I played called the Bacchanal, going nowhere. And just like a bunch of drunks that just hated me. And then getting on a train and talking to the woman who wrote the music for Zoom. And then her saying that I should come to Boston because there's this great scene going on in the streets and everywhere else. And there's a lot of songwriters and they're trying to write a great song. Then I'd be meeting Chris Chandler while I was busking out in Harvard Square. And then going to the old Vienna Coffee House. And then eventually dying of loneliness and alcoholism.
It sounds like the trajectory of an artist.
Penniless.
There's definitely a folk song. Do you have a song about dying of loneliness and alcoholism, being penniless?
I don't think I'm going to really start drinking again, so maybe the alcoholism is not part of it. Just the loneliness.
Yeah.
And penniless.
But that's not uncommon for an artist to experience loneliness because not everyone has the kind of drive to be what it takes to be an artist, or at least a creative artist. There are imitators who make a living as an artist whose work is very derivative, whether you're talking about painting or architecture or music, but there are people that create and they're innovators, and those kind of people often experience loneliness because it's a more difficult thing to relate to.
Yeah.
For other people, so you wind up isolated.
Yeah, part of why I do this is just to have great conversations with interesting people. Be lonely together. Chris, I hate to cut this short, but I do have to.
No, it's fine. Thanks for having me on. You asked me to come on and talk about these two movies, and it's just a conversation with the three of us, and I appreciate you doing so. It was a nice coincidence that it just happened that I was doing this Thanksgiving show, and this is the way my thing was set up. It's not normally what I would do, but it was like, oh, I'll just do it here.
Everybody check out the Chris Chandler Show on YouTube, and also join his Patreon. Throw him a couple of bucks a month. Make sure he can keep doing the things that he does. And I would say with any of your favorite creators, definitely do that. But first, you should do that with Chris, and then
I can certainly use that.
And I hope to have you back, Chris. I enjoy having these conversations. Next time, maybe there won't be such a severe delay. Which I think caused us to talk on top of each other a little bit.
Well, I appreciate the assignment, and it was let's just do that again. I always enjoy your show and enjoy your company. It's nice to see you again, Lionel.
Same here.
Funny Not Funny is produced by Jim Infantino at Slab Media in Boston. Jim Infantino and Lionel Casson are the co-hosts. Our website is funnynotfunny.net. The theme music is from the song Wheel from the album Utopia Revisited by Jim. The opinions presented by the co-hosts are ridiculous and should not be taken seriously by anyone. Our intended audience is literally nobody. If you're listening to this podcast, you should probably pause to reflect on other choices you've recently made. Please do not subscribe or leave a rating or review. It only encourages us to make more. Thanks for listening.